Welcome back to my art studio. Today we are trying out some fun new art supplies. If you are new here, my name is Paige Poppe. I'm an artist and designer. I primarily work in watercolor, which is some of what we'll be trying today. If you've been here before, you can see I have a new setup. So you'll have to forgive my filming arm, but this is going to allow us to get 2 shots today. I'll be able to talk to you and film what we're painting and working on. It's not perfect yet. I'd prefer that you didn't see it, but we're trying it. We're mic'd up too because I have said that my studio is quite echoey. I got my puppy at my feet. We're making it work. So let's jump right in. We are trying out 3 new art supplies today, and I was very kindly gifted these by Hippie Crafter, and I've patiently waited until we could try these together. But I will be honest that I have already used these paint and art wipes, and as a little spoiler alert, I do love them. So that makes me excited for these other 2 pieces. But what I have on my desk I think will be more fun for you to see first. So we're going to start with those. They sent me their watercolor paint set of 36 watercolors, which also comes with a water pen. And speaking of a water pen, the first thing we're diving into is their watercolor brush pen set. You get 25 different colors, and there's also a water pen in here. Let's see all of the colors. Okay, I did try out a couple of these in one of the coloring books I've illustrated because I thought they were like a marker. And then as soon as I used them, they totally took me by surprise. Let's jump in so you can see what I mean. I'm going to save the water brush pen for later on. These are awesome, and I'm so surprised how many questions I'll still get about these if I ever use one in my Instagram videos. People ask me like, what kind of paint pen is that? Because they see the water coming out of the tip and they think that this holds the paint itself, but these just hold water. I honestly have always just used them for painting on the go because you don't have to have like a dish for your water. It comes right out of your brush, you squeeze it and it comes out of the brush tip, but they've included this for blending all of the colors. Let's start with something vibrant so you can really see. So this is where I got surprised. I thought this was like a felt tip marker, but hopefully you can see here on my page, they kind of perform like a marker, but they're actually like a paintbrush. There are several individual bristles, just like a paintbrush would have. So when they call it a brush pen, that is really what they mean. It is a pen that performs like a paintbrush. As soon as I figured that out, I was like, wow, we are gonna have some fun with these. Now, I will say for like coloring in my coloring book, for me, it didn't have enough control. It's definitely something that is more free flowing, right? Like I'm finding it easier already to illustrate something free flowing, something where I can be loose and leafy like this. I want to do like a quick daisy flower. I'm very curious about this hot pink. Oh, that is my perfect kind of hot pink. Yeah, so control wise, I have to slow down a bit to get a circle. Okay, so I have clean water and my very well-loved paintbrushes, and I have not yet seen how these react when you add water to them. Okay, these are so receptive to the water that it's really immediately blurring like both of the colors together. I don't feel like I could like separate the pink and the orange very much. I can go back in, which is nice, and like add more pigment to where I placed the water. The way I work in watercolor is a little bit interesting. I tend to work with watercolor more dry than wet, and some people work with a lot of water. I like having a little bit more control, so I'm not as heavy-handed with the water. I actually feel like I could see myself using these brushes without adding any water to it because I like the control that I get. That's something that I work with on my brush. These are essentially like having a paintbrush that's loaded up with color and not having to dip back into your paint palette, which is really nice. I have been very inspired by florals in my current season. These do give you some nice controls to add details and petals. I am curious about the black as well, if we could get some brush lettering going. Oh yeah. I do a lot of hand lettering when I design wedding stationery. For many, many years, I only did it analog in a sketchbook with like real pens and paper, which I still will do mostly when I'm doing like more watercolor style where I really want like a certain look with the brush. But I now also use my iPad with an app called Procreate, and I do a lot of hand lettering there. It's very seamless to move the hand lettered elements into the computer and like onto your invitations you're designing. But up on my shelves, I have sketchbooks and sketchbooks filled with like just hand lettering clients' names and like bar signs and menus. I say all that because these would be perfect for that, especially if you want that grit of the brush and to really see like the tooth of the paper. You can achieve that with these, which is still something I really need for particular projects. I'm acting like I'm 13 years old and just like hand lettering my own name. Isn't that what we all do? I still desire that texture a lot for certain projects. Please forgive, my dog is talking. His little tail is like just out of the viewfinder. Now that we're trying these, I'm actually feeling like using these in my coloring book was pretty fun. So I want to show you the level of control you get. This is one of my 2 coloring books. This one is my Desert Disco coloring book. I'm actually working on my 3rd right now, and I'm very close to finishing it. That's here. You can see this is the page I tested out the markers on. This palette of colors, if I'm not mistaken, I kind of grabbed from like the first row here of colors. Let's try another purple. Ooh, that one's kind of like mauve-y. You can really like build the colors. So you could just do like one layer of color, but if you go back in, you'll get like a little darker shade. So to me, that also performs like real paint does. And my coloring books work really well with colored pencil and marker. I should have marker in here. Oh yeah, this is a marker page. So I will say, when I first tried these, I felt like it was kind of hard to not have control. The black lines are thick enough that they kind of catch any like overlap. He had to bring his noisy toy to me. This is like the most formal video I have filmed since having a dog. I've done like a lot of vlogging, but I want to get back into these like sit down videos where we create art together. Hey. Yeah, I'm actually like really enjoying this process. I feel like I can flow. I feel like I can flow through the art a bit more, and it almost feels like I'm painting. These are pretty fun to color with. Let's go in with red, and I'm just layering these on top of the neon orange. It was like a little easier just to fill in like the large area of color. Oh, wow. These are super fun to color with. I kind of underestimated them when I first tried them yesterday. I'm gonna have some fun with this. Like I said, I really like control when I create art. I'm kind of like a stickler for it. I want like my paintbrushes to perform a certain way. Even like some of the cheapest brushes I love because they're made with those synthetic bristles that really like bounce back fast, which helps you have like sharp lines and control. So when first trying these out, I felt like, oh, for like my paintings, am I gonna have enough control? I definitely think they are fun for like sharp accent work. Like we even could layer this on top of an existing watercolor painting, and we're going to have the freedom to blur it out with water. Like if we do this and decide we want it to be a bit softer, we have the ability to blur it out. I'm looking at the back here, and I definitely agree with a lot of this. They say it offers more precision control than traditional watercolor and with less mess, and ideal for calligraphy. You can create a variety of effects, including fine to thick lines, dry techniques. So true. Like you really could lay down like a whole loose watercolor and then illustrate on top of them with these. I am like totally itching to sit with these and color this entire page. I think that will be my relaxing TV watching project for the evening. Because look, I couldn't even resist picking up the hot pink. I just love that I can like flow when I color. A lot of times when I color with colored pencils, I feel like I have a vice grip on the pencil because I'm like coloring so hard. Having that tight grip of control on what I'm doing. This is a little 24 set of Prismacolors, but I go into my larger stash of colored pencils and I rotate out the colors I want to have on hand. So yeah, when I color normally, like I am literally making a fist. I make a lot of my art like that, like very tense, because it helps me, once again, have control. I sound like I'm a control freak. I am really not. But when it comes to my art, you know, you have a vision, or like I work a lot more detailed now than I did in years prior. You need that kind of physicality to get the paint to perform with what you have in mind. How fun is that? Even the mix of colored pencils and these, even the mix of the colored pencils with these brush pens is so fun. It's even given like a watercolory look to my artwork here. You best believe I will be coloring tonight with these. The next art supply they sent me was their watercolor paint set. I think you're going to get a kick out of this when I open it. You're like, okay, pretty standard black watercolor palette, but look at what I have on my desk. I have these two watercolor palettes. Although one has a logo, these are pretty identical, I think. These are on my desk because these are the watercolor palettes I use most often for my work. Very well loved. This one's just super nice for like quick pieces and traveling. But I think the key of why I like this is that these palettes tend to lean a little bit more like a gouache and not like a true watercolor. Like I said, I like my watercolor to be like very pigmented, very bold, like heavy-handed. And with a gouache, if you didn't know, a gouache is like a mix between a watercolor and an acrylic paint. I get that color payoff and that boldness. And I could be wrong, and they don't advertise it that way. They advertise it as watercolor. I think that's what this one is. This one here that I love is not from Hippie Crafter. It's kind of a long story, but my dad at his previous job had these like points he would win, and he could spend them on Amazon, and he would let me pick things out. And one time I picked a watercolor palette that was an option, and this is what arrived. And then I absolutely loved it. And since he doesn't work there, I can't like go back into the portal to see the exact watercolor palette, but I really did my best. And I'm pretty sure this is the exact one. It just has a little bit of a different logo, but the palette is the same. A lot of the colors are the same. And the reason I bought this is because I was hitting pan on so many of the colors. I needed to replace them, but I will link this one. But the whole reason I bring that up is I'm very curious to see if this set from Hippie Crafter is also the same. And oh my gosh, okay, it's looking similar. Let's compare. Now, I must say, I can see that these are unwrapped, which I appreciate, because when these all come wrapped individually, it really takes a long time to unwrap each one, but maybe that's a me issue. I'm like trying to work quickly. Once again, it comes with a water brush. I also have like a high-end water brush in my palette here. I just always keep this in here full with water in case I grab it to paint outdoors or traveling. And you can see this one is taller and bigger, which is nice. I think the colors are quite different though. Let's look at this to compare. This one I have is a 52 color palette, and this one is 36. So we just have 3 rows instead of 4, but a lot of nice colors in here. I'm very curious to try some of these turquoises. I love having a lemon yellow and a gold. We will see what kind of color payoff we get with these. I had to go take Bogey for a walk, so I'm clipping in the painting portion. We lost a little bit of light, but I think we're fine. I'm gonna reach for a larger brush. I'm gonna do some loose florals. Okay, this is already like picking up the pigment so fast, which is nice. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm really impressed with how fast the color is coming onto my brush. I feel like this is better actually than the palettes that I would think are comparable. Wow, I think you can tell by the look on my face. I am impressed. I painted that kind of loose, but I'm actually liking the direction this is heading. So let me clean it up just a touch. I'd like to add in some leaves, and rather than doing just this straight green, which is also coming up really nicely, I'm gonna add in some of this golden. Sometimes watercolors will have like a film on top too, and I'm not getting that with this, which is great. And a little of this, yeah, light orange too. Very nice. I love a warm green. That is really pretty. I'm gonna do my own signature swatches at the top here. I'm gonna go in with my trusty pastels. I've been really drawn to using these in my floral pieces lately, and why not create a finished piece for you to enjoy? Somebody just brought me their monster ball. You can definitely tell this is the sign of a good time. Look how much we've got in the works over here. All right, here's how our painting turned out. I'm actually quite a fan. Really nice, vibrant color payoff. Now, I don't think I'm gonna swatch every color. I'm just curious if I will add this into my rotation of supplies, and I honestly think I will. I'm gonna need some clean water here. This is like obviously not what that orange looks like. Ooh, look at that. That is like a, which one did I just swatch? It's like kind of a pinky red, and then over here is the true red, I think. This isn't. This is more of that fire engine red. Oh, I love this color, how it leans more orange. That is like my new favorite red. These are looking super nice. Safe to say, I think this is going into the rotation with my other two. I just will keep all three on my desk now. All right, finally, I saved the art supply that I teased in the beginning. I told you I already love these. And while I don't have a huge mess today to demo for you, I will show you how these work. I actually have like this big area of green watercolor paint. I got it like all over my arm the other day while I was making this floral painting, but you can see that came right off. If you have watercolor on your table, this is taking them off immediately. But the project I used these on that was so awesome was a mural painting I created earlier this month. For this mural painting project, you know when you have like, excuse me. Oh. You know when you have a big painting project and you have the big cans of latex paint, either like the quarts or the gallons? I was working with gallons for this project. They do make these cool attachments that you can put on a big latex paint can, and it turns it into like a pouring spout that you can reseal. But you have to buy one of those for every single color you have. For this particular painting project, I only had 3 colors, but I'm usually working with like 7 colors, 12, 20. So I'm not like putting a spout on every container of paint. So when I paint murals, inevitably when you pour the paint out of like that big latex paint can, you're getting all the dripping of the paint down the side, all in like the rim where the lid goes, and it just gets messy, and then your lids don't stay on as tight, and then they get stuck with paint. I found that for something as heavy duty as latex paint, these were super nice for that art project. They're a very heavy duty, I would say, and they are smoother on one side but have like a totally grippy texture on the other. When I looked at what art supplies they offer, a lot of it was like resin work, which I know is like a totally big project a lot of people do for their hobby or their career. I have never worked with resin. It kind of intimidates me, to be honest. I tried like one time in college actually for a project, and I couldn't even tell you if it worked. I'm leaning toward it didn't, but I found it to be hard. But these paint and art wipes say they specifically can clean up paint, epoxy, adhesive, and grime. So I think that they might have like a more of an audience using epoxy and adhesives more often than I would, but very good for having on hand for murals. I would totally get these again. I like them a lot. All right, this has been fun trying out some new art supplies. I, of course, go to the art store a lot, so I'm always like grabbing intriguing goodies. You will see me review them on shorts sometimes, but I thought it would be fun to be a bit more chatty today, bring you into the studio and really play with these. I will link everything below that I used, both from the brand and also anything else that I pulled, including my Desert Disco coloring book. Like I said, I'm working on my third one right now. I really think I'm close to releasing it. Stay tuned for that, because I'm like thinking of kind of like hitting the gas and making sure I get that out sooner rather than later. It has been a project I've been illustrating for quite a while now. So you can find all of that in the description box along with my art. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you here. I'm a working artist sharing my work and process with you. I'd love to have you join me for the creative journey. I've got a puppy who needs me. So thanks again for watching. Until my next video, I'm sending all my positive and creative vibes your way. Bye.